my name's Joe and welcome to my YouTube channel, Your Average Joe. Today I'll be doing a review on Steven Spielberg's new sci-fi film, finally he's back to sci-fi, Ready Player One. This is going to be a spoiler review first and foremost, so anyone that doesn't want any spoilers, stop watching now. I'm going to go straight into it. So the plot revolves around an 18-year-old boy called Wade Watts. He's basically a gunter living in the year 2045. At this time, virtual reality has become almost actual reality, with everyone obsessed with being in the Oasis, which is the name for the virtual reality world that everyone's living in and playing in. It was created by a man, the late James Halliday. Before he died, he created an Easter egg. So upon his death, the person that finds all three keys that are hidden in somewhere within the Oasis will receive the Easter egg and will have full control over the Oasis and receive all of his money. Effectively, it's like a will. Wade knows a lot about James Halliday. He feels that he's got a great chat. He's always in the archives looking up his memories, trying to gauge any sense of where he might have hidden these Easter eggs. His best friend is called H, and together they play games and try to get as much coins and as much bits, I suppose, as possible, in which they can spend on actual equipment in real life, such as extrasensory clothing, where you can feel the game, almost like 4D. Wade, since his parents died, lives with his auntie. He doesn't get on well with his aunt's current boyfriend, so he spends most of his time, like the majority of the public, being in this virtual reality world where you can be who you want and what you want. It doesn't matter what you look like and who you are in real life. You can be someone completely different, and no one knows your real name in the Oasis. You can be completely anonymous, and that's the beauty of it, which is why everyone likes doing it. And that's actually a reason why a lot of people go online now. You know, they can be whoever they want to be in a world of their own, and no matter what's happening in their real life situations. Wade meets up with this female avatar called Artemis. She's well known in the online community, so he knows full well who she is just by looking at her at the beginning of this car race. Wade manages to beat the race. He manages to win a race by driving backwards, by getting a hint from one of Halliday's memories, and ends up winning the first key from Halliday's avatar. The plot starts to become a bit more ominous when Innovative Online Industries, IOA, and its CEO Nick Sorrento start becoming more involved. I mean, they've been trying to get to the Easter egg so they can keep it for themselves, because Nick Sorrento wants full control of the Oasis. And this sets in motion a series of events where Nick Sorrento now is going after him, trying to work out how he got the key. His friend H and Artemis followed his lead in getting the key, along with a couple of others, and they're on the top of the leaderboard, so they are well known to Nick Sorrento, and he tries to work out how the hell they did it and where they're getting the clues from. So now he's got the first key. He's really trying to his best now to get the other two keys, because he knows he can do it. After finding what she thinks is another clue as to where the second key might be, the Jade key, Artemis takes Parzival to a sort of dance club, one where James Halliday intended to take the woman that he loved to on a first date and kiss her, which is what he was most afraid of in life, was kissing a woman. It turned out not to be the right place, and because Percival was being watched, which he didn't know that at the time, he gave Artemis his last name, because he wanted to get to know her more and to meet her in the real life. It meant that IOA and Nick Sorrento could now find out who he was and where he was. He ended up giving Wade an ultimatum where he said he'll give him lots of money and give him some control if he would just tell him the secrets and to work for him and to not continue on his quest to find the other keys. Wade says no, effectively. Nick Sorrento didn't like that and ended up killing his auntie and his auntie's boyfriend, along with probably everyone else on that block of trailers where he lives, which didn't go down well, obviously. Luckily, Wade wasn't at home at the time, but the reason why they were all destroyed by IOA was because Nick Sorrento thought that Wade was at home at the time. So now Wade's on the run. Him with his friend H and Artemis and a couple of others. He meets up with them. Well, he meets up first with Artemis, unintentionally, but he does find her. Finds out she has a birthmark and, reiterates that she's beautiful. Doesn't matter what she looks like. And then he meets up with H. She turns out to be a woman. All along he thought she was a man, but I always saw that there were hints that H might have been a woman. With every key that's found, you receive a clue. So he looked back at the clue again and realised, well, his date, Halliday's date, originally wanted to go dancing, but that never happened. Instead, they ended up watching a movie, so maybe they should go to the cinema. The clue led Wade to believe that the key was somewhere hidden in The Shining. The author of the book The Shining, Stephen King, hated the film, and the clue revolved around the creator hating what he's created. So they went to the cinema, which they recreated pretty much the entire set for The Shining, as well as included scenes from the film. And they had to go around through this simulated horror film, effectively, to look for the second key, which they found in the ballroom, where the woman that James Halliday desired was in there, dancing with a bunch of zombies. It's quite unusual. But the person to get the second key was Artemis. Once again, they all ended up trying for it and ended up getting the keys themselves. So it was all a race of time for the third key. Artemis was taken hostage by Nick Sorrento, was imprisoned on a planet, I think it's something like Doom Planet or something, where lots of people were imprisoned to work for Nick Sorrento in finding the final key. They found out that the final key was going to be in an old games station, so whatever, they've got to go through all of these games, and if they win one, then they receive the key. In desperation, H, Percival and the others, they sent out a video to get as many people to come and fight for them as possible to receive the keys and stop Nick Sorrento getting the key. They ended up having a massive game, massive battle with various different game characters. H had created an Iron Giant in her basement. She's very inventive, and she turned into the Iron Giant as her new avatar to join the battle. To cut the story short, Wade and Percival managed to win the battle along with his help from his friends, H, which is short for Helen in real life, and Artemis. So he managed to get the third and final key, no matter how much Nick Sorrento tried to stop him from getting to effectively their work lab, where they were working to discover out where the key was, and found the Easter egg where Halliday was waiting for him. He said he was dead, but he's also not an avatar, so didn't get any answers there as to what he was. But he was always a very unique and secretive person. He only cared about the Oasis as a place to game, as a gaming platform, and he never wanted the Oasis to become some form of reality for people. He wanted people to live in the real world and to enjoy themselves gaming. Wade Watts ended up sharing what he had inherited with the other four in the gang, and lives happily ever after with Artemis, whose name in real life is Samantha. So Wade and Samantha end up living happily ever after, with control of the Oasis. Made many great decisions, but one unpopular decision, which was to close down the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that people could have time in their real life and live in the real world. This film was amazing. I've got to admit, it's really nice to see Steven Spielberg getting back to sci-fi films. He's obviously well known for Jurassic Park. He's well known for films such as E.T., Indiana Jones. So it's great to see him come back to his sci-fi roots. But there are many film and game references in this film, such as, for example, you got the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, you had King Kong, Mechagodzilla, obviously the Iron Giant, you had Alien, there was a chestburster scene in there, and the entire recreation of The Shining, which was just outstanding. It was absolutely incredible. I've got no words. I absolutely loved that scene. I'm more of a fan of the book than the film, but it's just, it must have taken a lot of work, and I really appreciate that. The CGI was some of the best CGI I've ever seen. I don't really like CGI in films. I'm much more of a fan of practical effects That's why I always prefer the Lord of the Rings with its practical effects, which look more realistic than the CGI in The Hobbit. There's many game franchises that you can see that were inspired. You can see a lot of manga and anime in some of the designs, but you've got like Call of Duty characters and Halo characters in there. So many different types of game references as well as film references. For me as well, I mean, The Shining was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it's one of the films that was not popular with the author of the book, Stephen King. But it's become a classic, and people love it just for the artistic nature of Stanley Kubrick's designs and writing and directing. The film also really reminded me of a film called AI, Artificial Intelligence. A lot of people forget about that now, but what a lot of people don't realise is that it's written by Stanley Kubrick. He didn't have a chance to direct it before he died, so it was directed by Steven Spielberg. And it's all about, a child robot who wants to become a real boy that is looking for his family again, wants to be with his mother again, looking for his mother. But he also seeks out to find his creator, so his creator can make him a real boy. In this film, James Halliday is the creator, and you've got Wade Watts going out to find out more about the creator, to find what the creator has left as a legacy, and to have that legacy for himself. So it's all about creators and the things they hate, and people that go out looking for their creator and almost looking for the meaning of life and the meaning of death. And I got a lot of that from this film, and it's just so subtly done, so very well done. Like I say, I don't enjoy many CGI films, but this was great. It reminded me a lot of Avatar. The actual CGI that facially of the characters was very much like Avatar. I do love the CGI also in films such as The Jungle Book. There's not many films which I do like the CGI, but those three were amazing, I'll have to admit. Cinematography was once again superb. I love the plot. I've started reading the book, and so far I think I prefer the film. I usually prefer films to books, unlike most people. But that's just me. I usually tend to watch the film before the book, if there is a film version of the book. So maybe that's why most people read books before the films. I thought it was very well acted. I just thought it was unique. I just love the craft. I mean, there's nothing better than a film that includes so many extracts from popular culture, from other films, maybe even TV shows, from games, just chock-a-block within this film. And I praise Steven Spielberg for doing that. I mean, having a whole segment to another director in there, and whole segments. I mean, obviously that is the book, so you would have to go along with the premise of the book to a degree. But yeah, I mean, it's just so very well done, and it's clearly created by someone who loves film and who loves the job he's in. So I can't fault it in that respect at all. The sound editing was great. The sound was great. I thought definitely see it in IMAX if you can. That's definitely the place to see it. There probably was too much CGI. The CGI was great. It was amazing. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes when you rely too much on CGI, it can get a bit. It can make you believe it less in the film. That's what makes older films set in like the 70s and 80s much more effective, much more realistic, and they feel more real, and that's why they become cult classics, because they feel real. The practical effects, such as The Thing, such as Aliens, such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There are many films in that respect, E.T., that feel they've got heart and they feel more real, and CGI can take a lot away from that. However, because a lot of it was set in the real world as well, and we know that the Oasis and the virtual reality side isn't real life, it worked in this occasion. If obviously there was CGI in the characters in real life, it wouldn't work in my opinion. Overall, I just thought this was a very well done film, very well made, very enjoyable to watch. It was a bit too long, I'll say. I mean, for many people it would be a bit too long. There were scenes that were a bit slower, that maybe could have been cut down on a little bit. But I appreciate that they're there because of the character development that ultimately was increased. I thought there was quite great character development. Maybe for the main characters, but maybe not for some of the other characters who just got bit parts. Just the message of the film, the end message, you know, where you can be whoever you want to be in the Oasis. You can be free, doesn't matter who you are in real life, but you also need to be in the real world at times. You can't always be in this fantasy world. At the same time, you know, sometimes you can't always be in the real world because that could be depressing. The message I thought was great, and I thought it was a great message for the film to end on. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10, so I'd recommend for everyone to go see this film. While it's still out, preferably the bigger the screen the better. It's that type of film. There's not much I can criticise about the film. You know, it was only that it was slightly too long, and you know, I'm not too keen on too much CGI. Everything else, I can't really fault it. The music, though, before I leave, the music I've got to mention was amazing. The music was absolutely incredible. Originally, it was meant to be done by John Williams, who obviously has done a lot of Steven Spielberg films and is highly known to everyone, I'm sure. But it ended up being done by Alan Silvestri of Back to the Future. There are lots of hints of Back to the Future in there. There's like, you know, when you have that light bulb moment, there's a, you know, that sort of sound. And there's definitely elements that you could hear, other elements from Back to the Future. And there are definitely elements of his music in this film from Alan Silvestri's other lines of work and other scores. But you can also hear a bit of John Williams in there as well. I mean, the end music towards the end of the film sounded very similar to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's what I love about scores, you know, they can reuse parts of the old scores and completely change them, or have hints at other films in there. It wasn't just about the visual references, it was also about the music and the sound. There were many references in many different forms. My favourite films, as you can see, Godzilla, Aliens down here if you have a look. Aliens and Alien. Alien's my favourite horror film, Aliens is my favourite sci-fi, so there you go. Barry Lyndon, guess what, Stanley Kubrick. So many references in this film of films that I love, so that is always going to be a plus point for me. Thank you for sitting and listening to my review for Ready Player One. I hope I've gone some way into encouraging you to watch the film. I definitely recommend it. I'll soon be uploading more trailers and more film reviews for you to watch, so if you're interested, then please subscribe.